Hey, friends. Should say, hey, you. It's been a while since I did one of these. Um, I'm just going to check that my YouTube is showing that I've gone live because I'm not sure if I've got all the tech stuff right. It has really been a long time since I set up one of these Streamyard streams. I was planning to talk to a gentleman by the name of Alec Zeck tonight. Unfortunately, he's had some personal uh, incident or emergency that's meant he's had to cancel very last minute. So I don't really have a plan other than to have a chat, kick some of the dust off, maybe get one or two people to join in, assuming that that's what people want to do. But if you'll just forgive me a second while I just check that this is actually working on YouTube because I can't confirm that right now. I just say Happy New Year. Um, Apparently I'm live. Yep. Okay, that's cool. I'll follow the chat and hey, just JP and Bon, nice to see you. Thanks for your support. I haven't replied to messages on my account recently. Martin Nika, how you doing, brother? I'm just looking at this from the Streamyard end, and on my phone I've got the chat, so I can keep an evening on that. I mean, a view on that. May need to look a little bit closer to read what's said. Greetings and salutations. Festivus, nice. And all the best, Dave, Andrea, and family. Thanks, Just JP. Just on that note, we're doing okay. We're north of London, near Cambridge at the moment, for till the end of the week, and then we're on the move down to Somerset for a few days. And while I'm in Somerset, I am going to be doing a presentation that I'm calling The Core. Welcome to come along if you happen to be in the Somerset area. The core is really about getting to the core of. I am using the hoax of their Earth core and so on, but the core of the story is you, and so I am focusing on the electromagnetic nature of the world and how it all points back to you. And in that vein, what are we to do with this information? What are we to do with ourselves? What is our sole purpose in this life? And that's something that I want to focus on. The talk has come about because of a lady by the name of Penelope who calls herself Pens, who lives out that way, and she has a bookstore which she uses. She really bought the bookstore so that she could use it as a platform for having sort of truther type place for truther type folks to meet, and also for people to come and do talks. So she's hosted a number of people. She may have had Dave Murphy there before. I'm not sure, but they know Dave Murphy, or she knows Dave Murphy, and I think she's been in the sort of truther space, outside of the matrix kind of mind for many, many years. But I think only in the last few years, maybe 2 years or so, perhaps since the 2020 business, she's really come on board with Flat Earth. So that's nice. It's a great opportunity. And then we are going to be staying for a month or so in an area called Battle, which is right near Hastings, 1066, and all of that brings. So I'm sure I'll get the opportunity to go out and about there and maybe do some activism. But certainly there's a place that started sort of informal schooling for children in the post-COVID or during the COVID period. That has invited me to do a presentation, perhaps at one of their festivals. So I'm quite looking forward to that, and perhaps it's the beginnings of a new direction for me in terms of the way that I, try and do my part for the good of mankind and our story here. So that's what's coming up. I have done a little bit of street activism. You might have seen that in the last month or so. Thanks to Dean and Sarah, who together with them, we went out and did a town. I had quite a funny exchange with the Plods. In hindsight, I regret not using the opportunity, because I had their attention for about 45 minutes. And I'm sorry I didn't use the opportunity anymore to, show them or tell them some of the things that they need to know about the system that they are, vouching for. I mean, they even said, we weren't as bad during, our policing wasn't as heavy as some of the other countries during the lockdowns. But the truth is that that they pretty much all bought the story and took the pill, or took the program on board. And I'm convinced that this is just a stepping stone towards more programming and more controls, more lockdowns. And we've heard that the WEF has been talking last week or this week about what they call virus X. X, I assume, just denotes a name that has yet to fill in the blank. Virus X is coming, and there's going to need to be a concerted and combined effort to lock everything down where necessary. They've even taken the steps, you might have come across this yourself, they've even taken this idea that they can, they're going to monitor the feces at the sewage farm. And if they find certain numbers of whatever they find, they can call it whatever they like, they will say, well, people upstream of this farm, their shit is determined that they need to stay at home now. Can you imagine that? And people start crapping in plastic bags so that it doesn't go down to the effluent, the sewage farm. Anyway, thanks, Jolly Man, for that. I appreciate it. Hi, Cinch Man. Yeah, so I hadn't, as I said, I hadn't really kind of planned, and it's a bit odd for me to be in this setting again, and without someone to bounce off. I feel like I'm just sort of, I haven't come with a prepared presentation. This guy, Alec Zeck, made a lot of good waves in the 2020, 2021 period. I don't want to use terms, too much for Al Gore's sake, because, well, whatever. But he's deep into the deceptions. I think he's probably comfortable with the idea that the globe is a the idea that we're on a spinning ball is a complete hoax. I think he's comfortable with that. He's into health freedom, sovereignty, and these are things that matter to all of us. So he started a website, he did something called The End of COVID, which was like a series of about 90 experts from their field talking about the various elements of that. And and so that was, he's kind of, he's a pretty well put together fella. And he started a podcast recently called The Way Forward. And the funny thing is that he uses this logo. I'm sure he didn't take it from me, but Glyph helped me make that, actually, long before I'd come across The Way Forward. But, so this Taurus with you at the center is so important. And why I found this guy interesting is he came to me via Andrea, actually. He's like in the Amanda Vollmer and Kelly Brogan, Alpha Vedic, Peggy Hall, the Healthy American. These are people that I have listened to, and Beth Martin possibly as well has interviewed him. But he comes from he comes from a like a military background. He was kind of in the system, and then he's dropped out of it, but he hasn't necessarily taken the route that a lot of us guys and girls, but guys predominantly in the in the sort of deep truth, hard truth, shall we say, hardcore truth. He hasn't really taken that similar approach where I feel anyway that we have, we're so deep into the deceptions that's where we're mining. We're mining out the deceptions and highlighting deceptions, which is great. However, it does leave us sometimes not doing the work on ourselves, that inner work, because that's really the most important thing. I don't know that we can significantly change the trajectory of the way that this story has been written in the macro, but in the micro, down at the individual level, then this is the whole reason for the story. Without the fire, without the storm, how would you ever learn to improve your fire defenses? How would you ever learn to manage the difficulties of and the challenges of a storm? So he's still, deep in truth, but at the same time, he's talking about yoga and Kundalini and, doing breath work and even cannabis breath work, which is something that I'm probably going to try at some point. So, this is what this is why he appeals to me, because, he's not come from the, the bare knuckle kind of flat earth, fight club, so much as he's come through the other things, and he was probably more in touch with that sort of yin feminine element of ourselves, and so he's been able to balance. I know this is what I was going to try and learn from him today, is that how much he's balanced it, but he's been able to balance doing that kind of research and understanding and grasping the nettles of truth of this world, whilst realizing the importance of the nucleus around yourself, your family, and those in your near universe. So and that's where I feel like I must grow and I must go, is in the direction of self. And I've spoken about this before. Those who've been following me in this previous the previous channel and so on, will know that back in 2017, 18, that was a big focus for me. Like self-care, mind, body, and soul. Not one of those, all three. That was a big deal for me. It was important, and I had the stability, the quietness, the stillness. These things I had then. Obviously, the sort of the storm of 4 years without a home well, it had me fighting different battles, you know, and I don't want to like have a pity party about that at all. Just I know that that has been part of my personal journey, growth, experience, and and my challenge is, you know, how do I create that stillness and that well-being, despite having not got the most solid foundation upon which to build, with a view to, of course, finding that solid foundation. I think we all need a solid foundation, which is why when you look at typically when you look at homeless folk or folk who've got chaos in their lives, you know, it's impossible almost for them to find that Zen place of stillness and self-care. So I hope that does as an intro for you guys. Hi, Festivus. Hey, Glyph. Nice to see you, brother. I was showing, I don't know if you were here earlier, but I did put this up, and obviously this is some of your handiwork from times gone by, and of course this is the more recent one, the banners for which ended up getting crushed when I had to let go of the other car. I think I've already spoken about that on a live stream the other day. Hey, Brian Evans, nice to see you. Oi, oi, as they say over your part of the world. One love. Hey, it's Conspiracy Music Guru's just popped his head through the door. Nice to see you, Alex. Alex is working on a new album this year, I believe. I hope I'm not talking out of turn there. That's what he told me. We bumped into each other in Spain recently, actually. It was, what a coincidence. And I ended up singing on an album of his. Oh, no. That was a dream I had. I did some karaoke with him and Stellium 7 and Howard George Stirrup. So, classic. No, Howard didn't come this last time. Howard didn't come. He's a really good singer. He can rap. You know, he's impressive singer. So anyway, Festivus asked me, what do I think of these easy, and by all means, that's a good idea, is if you could throw me a few questions if you want to, but if you'd like to pop into this chat for a little while, 15 minutes, half an hour, whatever, then you would just need to send me an email. If you could email me at Trinity4Man, that's the number 4, Trinity4Man@gmail.com, then I can send you a link to this stream and you can come and join me. But in the meantime, if you've got a question, put it in bold. Do a Jim Lotus. Put it all in bold. So yeah, disease X. I mean, firstly, just that they've used the term X, I suppose you could say that's just normal parlance, but it is interesting. It's the same time that Musk, the CIA, changed Twitter to X, Space X, Generation X, X Factor. Yeah, interesting. And of course, the recent eclipse over America completed an X with the last eclipse. Apparently, the two, I'm not a student of these, but people tell me that these two last eclipses created an X over North America. X marks the spot. Martin might still be in the chat, but he's talking to Jason Archaics later tonight, actually, 9 p.m. And of course, his theory is, rooted or has America plays a significant part in the theory that he posits, that America is to be a target, America is going to be the first or the biggest recipient of a Phoenix event. What's a Phoenix event? If you haven't watched his stuff, it's believed to be like a 138-year or 140-year event that causes what we in the community would call a mud flood. There are every fourth one of these. There is so every 500 odd years there is a much bigger event. It may be the case that every 16th or every 12th, I haven't listened to the stuff enough, but logically it might be that there's a big event every 140 years, and then every 500 years is a massive event, and then every 2,000 or 4,000 or 6,000 years there is an epoch ending event. So it could be some of those things. It could be some of those things, but it's also possible that it's really just about grabbing people's attention and putting fear on the table, and X marks the spot. So I have to be. I am pretty certain that Draconia came in 2020, but that was like Draconia light by comparison to what's coming. I don't follow the affairs in the Middle East and Ukraine and so on closely. I must be honest. There was a time when I would have done, but I don't now. I just kind of see a line here and a mention there of something, and I know that Britain, just like they did with Gaddafi, is creating the justification for more, or rather, events on the ground are creating the justification for more escalation in the region. We've seen things like this in the past, but it's very possible that this is the entry or the beginning of a much bigger, as I've said elsewhere, World War III type situation. Throw into that mix the virus X, which, by the way, I mean, Alec Zeck, who was going to come and chat, is very clear on the research he's done and the doctors he's had talk on his channel and so on, that virology is smoke and mirrors. It is us trying to interpret what we see under an electron microscope, because it has to be just like the observations in the sky. They have to be made to fit the paradigm of materialism, rather than everything being a sort of connected series of vibrations. But throw into the mix of well, we're in significant military activity here, so that's shutting that lot down, and then we've got people pooing stuff that they shouldn't be pooing, and then we're going to shut that lot down. Yeah, I mean, it just feels like the prison, is designed to grow over the 10, 20, 30 years ahead. Andrea reads astrology quite deeply now, and you can see astrological markers for how events have unfolded in the past, and it points to how events will materialize and mature in the future. So that's just worth saying on that. I see Holistic has joined. How are you doing, India? Nice to see you. Thanks for popping in. Flood. Yeah, maybe I'm missing some of the chat, but just on Festivus says flood. I'm assuming you mean in reference to events that occur to us. Well, yep, I don't disagree with that. However, flood can be interpreted in different ways, because you can have a flood of information, water, of course, mud. So for me, and for me, there is, in like Chinese medicine, or in sort of natural studies, people talk about there being 4 or 5 key elements. One of them is water, fire, earth, metal, which is the air, and one other. But so again, in the natural order of things, you would expect there to be a cycling through these different epoch events. So flooding may have been what happened 6,000 years ago or less time, whilst the deluge that I see in terms of mud flood, offers the suggestion that there's other ways that we've been inundated or flooded, which may be like the earth, that there is a sort of an earth movement. I'll throw quickly my one theory in here, which is that the ether that we exist in has the potential to be anything. A friend of mine, he was the best man at my wedding. He became a pilot, a sort of a Learjet pilot, 40,000 feet. And he was the first person I spoke to Flat Earth about in 2015. And no. And we end up not really talking to each other ever now. But before that, as a youngster, he was in shipping, and he used to take a ship or be a crew on a ship going from South Africa to Galveston in Texas. And so they would basically cross the Atlantic Ocean. And he told me one time, coming back from a trip, that he'd been in the middle of the ocean, 3,000 miles from land, or from the Sahara, and they were in a dust storm that was said to have been dust that had come from the Sahara. I wonder whether the ether doesn't have the potential to be dirt or be sand or be mud. And part of my theory is based on this idea that the hundreds of places that I've looked at from a mud flood perspective, what I often see is roofs are missing. And the way that the sediment has settled, the sand has settled, speaks of something settling down like snow. It reminds me often of snow drifts, the way it's sort of packed and so on. It's not like you would expect with if you flooded a place, then the silt would sort of hit up against buildings, and it would pack there, and it would recede down. It would drop down away from that point. Whereas I've been on hillsides where the apparent amount of height loss seems to be almost even all the way down the hill. Of course, these are things that I can only theorize about. Fascinating conversations, interesting. They don't really, change. Once you know this stuff, it doesn't really change anything. The trajectory of whatever they're covering up is going to, I think, happen. Perhaps the stuff they spray in the sky has, they're trying to delay that thing from happening. But so that it's kind of grist for the mill. It's like it's stuff that's fascinating if you're interested in history, if you're interested in archaeology, if you're interested in architecture. These things are fascinating to think about. But once you've stepped over the style of, this place has been flooded before, whether it's that we were sunk down, or it came down from above, or it came in as water, or this fire. It doesn't really change much about what's coming. So, I always come back to, well, we don't need to argue over it. It's simply, these are fascinating subjects to to consider. Does it help us to plan for something that might be coming? Well, I suppose, the people who have held knowledge and kept the truth of what's happened in the past, they will have possibly a very good understanding of what might be happening. They may not know the time, and like the Bible says, no one will know the time, but they may do, because if it is astrological, if it's a clock above us that's ticking away thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years, and you know that when the bell strikes, something's going to happen, you're able to prepare. And of course, there's a big truther segment that talks about the dumps, the underground bases, people buying land in New Zealand. Or I remember years ago, early in my truth-seeking days, coming across a CIA map of safe zones, that would be above a flood level. And back in 2016, certainly, I was, scouting high ground in, near where I lived, for that very eventuality, that I needed that. And I think it's kind of good to be on the lookout for that kind of thing. Equally, if it's an ether event, it's metal, it's in the air, then that may be counterintuitive. It may be that the air gets too thin to be in a mountain area. So there's no guarantees with all of this. And, we can end up running around like headless chickens trying to figure out what it is that we're meant to do to prepare, when in fact all we need to do to prepare is all within the chest cavity. And that's how it seems to me. So Holistic says 138 is Phoenix cycle, is a popular theory. Yep. And I mean, his archaics stuff, Jason Brashier's stuff, is well researched. You won't find that many more well researched chaps out there, actually. I always kind of caution myself that, if books are being written by people who didn't know that the earth was flat, and these are 500, 400-year-old books, as far as we know, that the globe lies really only become a solid, thing for academia in the last 100, maybe 150 years. And of course, like dinosaurs, really, it's taken, it's less than 100 years. You go back 60 years, people would have kind of still been, scoffing at the idea of dinosaurs, although obviously there was an academic drive towards that. I used to visit the Crystal Palace dino display, which is the world's oldest dinosaur thing, and of course they admit that in their stuff. We were building these dinosaurs based on artists' impressions and ideas and a tooth, and and then they've changed the way that they've looked over the last 50, 60 years, 70 years or so. So it does strike me as odd that a guy as well read as that would not have come across literature all over the 1600s, 1700s that was talking about the earth being a plane, and the stars being these energetic bodies and so on, that have, I know he's softened his position in the last 6 months perhaps, and perhaps having Martin Leake out there for a few months has definitely paneled him flat, although he won't admit it. I think it's a bit of a curse. The last time I did street activism with Dean and Sarah in Sevenoaks, I had a classic moment with two guys. One of them stayed and listened, but the other one said, "Oh, you're a flat earther, man." I shouldn't have said yes. He heard that and immediately turned on his tail and walked away. Immediately. But so I think that if you had a big channel, I think it would be, and it's not necessary to say I'm a flat earther. I think that just some people are saying true earther, but really being skeptical of the the nature of things. And of course, the term flat Earth brings people to the pancake in their mind, rather than us being sort of in the center, something like this there. So, in that ice ring that you can see around here, let me see if I can, there. And even that, we have to say, we've got science that can back up this idea of these things, but we are like, little zygotes or bacteria in your belly. They have no idea what they're inside of. No idea. And it's our human nature to want to know. So let's go out and do our own research, and we should be free to travel. Who knows what's on the other side? If there's a wall, what's on the other side of that? Is it just this one small pool? Is there much more to it? And why are we being constrained from seeing that? So kind of, I would definitely take, if someone said, hey, we're going to fly, we're able to, we're not going to be shot down, we're going to fly over something and go and look for something, I'd definitely be up for knowing that or seeing that myself. But it's like that guy sort of putting his trifecta on the horses every Saturday, hoping to make it big. And he's spending all the family's vacation money, holiday money on the betting. Maybe one day the horses come in, and everybody's like, whoa, we've got a £2 million win there. Only problem is dad is, drank himself into an early grave, and he only got to enjoy his winnings for about 3 weeks, and then he was gone. Not only that, we've waited 40 years for him to get this win, and we missed out on all of those experiences along the way because he was, down the bookies and in the pub. So I think we need to bear that in mind, is that the most important mission that you're on is the one of healing you, fixing you, but it's not to say we shouldn't do the work of understanding the world a bit better. So X-Men, see that one, yeah. That explains the billionaire bunkers. Yep. Yeah, I should say, well, before I pick up a dome with a door somewhere is preferable to the purgatory this feels. Singeman. Yeah, I think that this is the story, brother. This is how I see it. There is a doorway. We all get to go through it. Is there a recycling element? Is there a recycling door? Is there, some people say, don't go to this light, don't go to that. I don't know, fuck all about that. But I do know that we are eternal beings, and that this experience is either just some plaything for your higher self, or it's like some people say, some of the ancient cultures say, that it's this it's this kind of like tier thing, Jacob's ladder maybe, but it's this tier thing of Jack and the Beanstalk. You've got to get to the top. Not got to, but like that was what the mission was, is to come in here, face a whole lot of buffoonery, and grow from it. Is there it's a one-time deal? Do you have to break every friendship you have because people can't or won't or whatever. No, I don't think so. I think we are meant to learn to love and live in this world. And actually when you're in that vibration, then it's not like, I'll use the example of like the preacher, for example, who exudes love and bonhomie, and he's just or she is just a really warm person to be around, enjoyable to be in their company. They're looking out for their fellow man, etc., etc. They don't need to that guy doesn't need to flog you on the Bible so much as people go, dude, I admire the way that you conduct yourself, and I aspire towards something like that. So, what's the story? What's the secret? How do you get to that? And I think that's it, rather than trying to bang people necessarily with truth. Now, obviously, people are going to come to the preacher and go, well, I love your deal there. Can you share some of that stuff with me? And you go, well, let me tell you a little story. Once upon a time, there was a world in which, beings lived happily with each other and so on. And then something dark happened called NASA. Well, I mean, it goes before NASA. I shouldn't pick on NASA. That's a little unfair. Or Vatican. But there was something that happened to the world, and it turns out that we've been misled about pretty much everything that we are and what this place is. So as part of that, you need to be willing to let go of some of the stuff that you've been programmed with, because it's not necessarily going to serve you. And then you say, the earth is not a globe. And they run out of the house or the church. They run out and start, bad mouthing you to other people and go, he's a bit of a nut. But you can't you can't not live your life the way that you want to, given the way that things are. You need to. I'm just trying to catch up with some stuff here, but you need not to. In a way, it's a bit like this, that we realize that it shouldn't matter. Like, okay, so if your mother or your sister or your whatever is not willing to take that part, that's fine. In a way, maybe I'm just talking as I go. In a way, it shouldn't matter to us. I think why it matters to us so much, guys, is because we want the world to change. And we think that if we can get everybody into our parish, into our denomination, that the world will change. And I don't think it's designed that way. I think that the world is within you, and it will only change for you when that which is within is changed. As within, so without. And we see chaos in the world out there. I accept that. And I think that that may be as simple as there's so much chaos in the creators, us. And there's so much chaos within us that it's like a symbiotic relationship of creating chaos from within the chaos within, Now, maybe somebody had to set that first pendulum swinging. That's fair to say. But I think that the chaos within is the chaos that we can control. And the system this game will throw chaos at us. And there will come a time when, can you imagine, you're sort of the captain of all of a sudden you've got to take the captain has died suddenly, and the second officer has died suddenly, or you're in a plane and the same thing has happened. Now all of a sudden you've got to fly the plane and you've only once or twice been on a flight simulator. It's really going to frighten the heck out of you. But if that happens to you 5 times, by the 5th time, are you not going to be able to go, okay, I'll step into the hot seat there and I'm going to be able to handle that now? And so when crises are brought to your door, how are we managing them? How are we dealing with that? And I think this is where we do our own work. Trust me when I say that I would want for the world to be a more loving place and a more beautiful place and a caring place and so on. But like I said to those policy officers the other day in Sevenoaks, that I recognize that in this world we have such chaos that it sometimes manifests in acts which need some kind of stewardship, which need someone to say, hey, you can't do that, and we're going to have to stop you from doing that, because what you're doing is impinging on another man. They were having a go at me for putting chalk on like a building site hoardings. They admitted that the hoardings were an eyesore. They'd been there for like 10 years or something. They get painted over every now and again, and it was green, the paint, and it made a perfect chalkboard. And I put this huge Earth is flat kind of stuff with a weeping globe. I thought it was pretty cool. But they were coming to bat for a corporation because the eye in the sky had seen me doing it, and Big Brother had dispatched these 2 young men to attend to that. But as I said to them, I'm not harming another man, and I've not done vandalism the next rain, which was kind of due, and we got some big rain. We'll wash it away. Anyway, they were insistent that if I didn't clean it, they wanted names and so on, and I just didn't need all that crap. Because you know how it goes with these. It's like, no, I'm not giving you my name. Well, then we're going to take you down to the chop shop to go and, until we get some details from you, because, you're just such a bad man for putting chalk on a board. Hey ho. Let's see what else I've got there. Is there any questions for me? Hey, Squirrel. Nice to see you, brother. I hope you're well. And I look forward to seeing you soon, because, as I said, you may have missed, I'm going to be in battle from the end of next week, 26th January. So for about 5 or 6 weeks. So hopefully we will get time to hang out. Does that say Lord Racer? I like that name. It's funny. Cool. Listening from work. So it's not a name that I'm familiar with. So welcome. Interesting quote. God says, I steer, but I do not row. Yeah. Yeah. I wrestle with this idea that because I believe we are the expression of whatever we term God, then we are the highest authority here. It's part of sovereignty, really, but we are the highest authority here. And I would never want to think of myself, or I'm not trying to aim to be God or anything like that. I am in deep reverence and awe of the Supreme, the Most High. I think that is unbelievably. It's unbelievably powerful. I'm going to take this one out. It's unbelievably powerful. I was explaining it to my little boy Zizi just last night. The magnificence and the love, and that is the higher the source, you know. So in the universal macroscope, we are like bum fluff, you know, in that way. But in this world, then we are the creator. You know, it's like you've been given the keys to Lego land, and they've said you can go and build whatever you want. Of course, that's been usurped, it seems to me. Do we deserve that usurpation, or is that simply, you know, is that simply man unable to, or man falling prey to the 7 deadly sins, shall we say? So, is that Ryan? I see there. Hello, nice to see you, bro. Thanks for stopping by. And okay, kind of Mojo Shop. I should get my glasses to read this. Actually, truth be told, how many times have you heard me say that? My one kidney is working well. I must have missed something about that. Hospital appointment went well. Okay. 7 sleeps. You had 7 sleeps in a hospital? Sure, Brian. Kidneys. You want to hear Andrea talk on this stuff, you know. We are energy beings. Our bodies are literally a compression of light. It is just all these vibrations and whirring little bits of you know, toruses all interacting and so on. We see them as kidneys and skin and so on, but it's just light. And these toruses in different parts of our bodies are afflicted differently depending on the trauma. Anger is stored in the liver, which is why, you know, guys like a lot of, you know, like they'll drink alcohol to suppress that rage. But sometimes, obviously, it erupts. And so liver is a big clue sometimes when people have got liver conditions that they're containing, or they're holding in rage that they weren't allowed to express in their first formative years of their life. So that rage can be assuaged. That rage can be, you can reach in there and you can address that. It may even mean that, say, you know, you're a drinker or a weed smoker or a smoker, because the lungs, they also are responsible for holding a certain type of energy. And it's funny, Andrea told me what it was the other day for the lungs. I'm still smoking a bit. And I think that, you know, that there's something to this, that actually, you know, the areas that we find ourselves sick, the docs will tell you that it's because you ate something or whatever, but there may be a reason why you're eating that thing, because it's assuaging, it's comforting. And I truly think the same is true with kidney conditions, is that it's pointing to a particular trapped energy from young, probably, and then we never address that. So you can get your kidney, in Andrea's case, she had a gallbladder whipped out, you know, and the gallbladder is also responsible for holding rage. But you remove the gallbladder, the physical thing, but the emotional energy of rage remains with us. And so it has to be addressed by another part of the body. It has to be picked up by another part, which then starts to take strain later down the line. You may have heard a guy called Don Tolman, Australian, really talks quite effectively on the nature of the human body and some of the missteps that modern medicine seems to be taking so frequently. And he said what happens typically when people have a cancer growth, is that the body has encapsulated a a certain toxin that's being building up in the body, a certain energy, and the body has encapsulated it in a little pocket where it's trying to keep it, at bay. And then they go in and they start cutting it, removing it. Now, either the cutting it releases something into the body, or the removal of it means that the body now has to find another dump site for said toxin. Hence, you find yourself with further problems elsewhere a little down the line. Anyway, I do hope, obviously I don't know why you're down to one kidney, Brian, but I'm glad to hear you well. My uncle, one of my uncles, was a long distance marathon runner and had one kidney all through most of his life. So the body will work super fine on one. But as I say, I think if there's a reason why one has gone down, then that reason, the first one went down, needs to be addressed so that the other one doesn't go down as well. But I wish you well, mate, and all the best. I'm sure your family are happy to have you home. And I'm happy to have you in the chat. And while I'm thinking about that, we've lost a few folks in our community of late, and the most recent one on my mind is a guy called Mickey Warbanger, and he was very frequently in my chats. I appreciated his contribution, and I was looking forward to meeting him someday. He and Karen Petit of the Sun and Moon family were, I think she doesn't mind it being known that they were in a fairly loving relationship, and they'd only sort of really just got months or maybe a year into that relationship before all of a sudden he died. Not for the reasons that a lot of people are dying suddenly these days, but yeah, he passed, and I was gutted to hear that. So, and he spent a lot of time in the truth trenches, and again, with love, I say, was he doing the work on his own trench, or was it all, what's out there? So yeah, there's been a few. So in fact, yeah, I won't even talk about. Well, yeah, I won't even talk about that one right now. Gosh, is that Catherine Wilkinson? Hey, Lunderground, nice to see you. You were studying numerology for a year before Flat Earth. That seems your bag, mate. You're a very brainy maths typing kind of guy. To be honest, I've never been a science nerd. I did my research on Flat Earth. I spent a year, maybe 2 years, trying to learn more and blah blah blah. But I got to the point where it's like I know enough now. I could go on and study more. It's not that I don't have the capacity to study more. But so I do admire those people that have the mind to just spend time, getting super deep into that. And maybe had my life path over the last few years been different, I might have tried to go that deep with the science guys. What did Caitlin? The first step for them is, I don't know. Yeah, I guess that's a conversation. Hey, Mighty Adam, nice to see you, brother. Thanks for stopping in. Hope you're well. I think it's Bournemouth the last time I saw you. I still want to do street activism, in a way, but I feel like my energy enjoys more talking to people further down the track, a little bit further down the track. I'm happy to go back to the sort of, the wool has yet to be pulled, to those that have had the wool pulled off, not over their eyes. And, I did this presentation at a festival called Hope Sussex last year. It was last minute. So I wasn't officially on the bill, but I got a room and I did this talk, 40, maybe 50 people, but at least 40. And I shit you not, there was tears from people in the group, in the audience, and shaking of hands, my hand, and thanks very much for this information. And people were listening, they were willing to hear the information. So, and that's more rewarding, I'll be honest with you, than it's great to have a few conversations. I had a few nice conversations in Seven Oaks, and maybe a handful of nice conversations. So it was worth it for those, to be sure. However, it's, you are putting yourself in the role of the village idiot for the majority of people, including my father. So to be taking my own game to the next level of wanting to, to talk to people who have already cracked most of the nuts or many of the nuts, and it feels to me to be a good direction. My one kidney is working well. That's brilliant, man. And good water. You are on distilled water, aren't you? So that's good. Hippie Shake. Lovely to see you, and I do appreciate every time you share my stuff. That's very cool. And let's see, it's quite actually a few more people than I expected, to be honest. If you've come late, I had advertised this as the way forward with Alec Zeck. I was going to have a conversation, maybe an hour, a little bit longer. The guy's very successful in the Instagram space. I had a look at his Instagram account. He's got like 140,000 subs there. Made a lot of noise in COVID. He's pretty together guy, and I thought that it'd be interesting to take the conversation to the way forward for those that are listening to my voice, because that's really it. Martin, I may still be in the chat room, but Martin, I love Martin. We spend time together and so on, but I can't spend all of my time. I mean, some of it is just fascinating, really interesting, and so on. And so I would never say that shouldn't exist. I think that that's a very important part of the University of Truth. But at the same time, not at the expense of you. I think there are people in the world today who have absolutely no idea about my flood, Tartaria, flat Earth, even needles, and they are living like a life where they are true to themselves, they are in peace with themselves, and so on. And that is a better outcome, I think, than knowing all that we know and drinking yourself into an early grave, for example. Or stressing yourself or fighting with those around you into an early demise and ill health. It's not the purpose of this knowledge. This knowledge is to empower us, not to get lost in the fight and insist that everybody else has to have your knowledge. There are religious sects like the Mormons or Seventh-day Adventists, or I think they're the same thing, But these people, they don't need you to know their stuff. If you come along and want to join in their stuff, that's fine. They're cool with that. But they're not needing you to know that. And for the Jehovah's and so on who go out on the street, they're not. It's part of their ministry is let's spread the word, as it were. But if someone comes along and isn't interested or just walks by, that's fine by me. It cannot be. It's got to be water off a duck's back. It cannot be a problem for you, because if it's a problem for you, then you're the one that's getting injured by it. You're the one that's getting held back or harmed by the knowledge that you have. And as I said earlier, I don't know that it's in our gift to overturn the status quo. It's almost like it's a God level. It's a God level thing. It's like a natural order thing, that there is a switch that happens, and it's like your time's up, and we're calling quits, and we're pulling the tablecloth off, and we're going to start again. That's at the God level. That's not going to be anything that any of us can do anything about. And the world is so far down this road of capitalism and greed and communism and whatever, politics. It's so far down this road that the vast majority are bought into the banking system, and you have to have a birth certificate, and you have to have this, and you have to have. The vast majority are bought into that, and therefore, that shouldn't be the objective. Is to change all of that when you have the power to change everything around you. And when you are in a different place, this for yourself, right? You're having a good day, or you're having a bad day, and you go into a space, and other things will irritate you. The energy that you push off will be like bristly and prickly and whatever, versus you're having a great day, and you're open, and you're warm, and people seem to be like bouncing off you, smart in a good way, smiling with you, and so on and so forth. Or even if they're miserable, that misery isn't going to piss you off in the way that it might do on a day when you're having a shit time. Yeah. So that's what I think, is that we have to do that work for ourselves, on ourselves, and almost like workshop our way to wellness, even though we may have some of the deepest truths that exist on the plane, even though we may understand that this system is corrupt. It is totally corrupt. But as I've said many times, you cannot open the doors of Shawshank Prison and expect those lads to walk out there and be good model citizens. I've spent a little bit of time, a little confession. I've spent a little bit of time recently watching some of those like true crime videos where you see people have done dreadful acts, sometimes dreadful, unspeakable things to children or their loved ones or whatever. And, and you can't give those people $100 million and say, this is all you need, and it's going to sort you out. Or you can't say to those people, what, we've just realized that the government is a complete thing. We need self-rule, blah, blah, blah. You can't give that to them because the damage was done when they were young. The trauma that they're carrying, or the traumas that they're going through, or the psychology that's happening for them is generations in the building. And you're not going to just wash it away by simply, offering out the truth to the world. So in this lifetime, we should be seeking our own inner peace. And then, if we see, let's just say, things happen, either there is an event that ends everything, or, there's a situation in the world that means that you're a survivor in a crazy environment, whether it be in some kind of 15-minute lockdown city, or whether it be that, there's few survivors type of scenario. which version of you is going to handle that? Which one of you is going to walk into that room bristling, struggling, or I'm open, I'm willing, I'm capable, I've got my shit together and I can handle the storm. That's what you can do. Absolutely. And these months and years that have passed since many of us have found truth, mind-blowing, world-shattering truth. How many of us have truly turned inward and gone, okay, I'm going to make myself a better. There may be people, and they may have just dropped off the sort of scene, as it were, because they're just quietly beavering on their own affairs and getting their own ship in good shape. That may be the case, but in the main, what I see is us retaining an angry position because of the deceptions that were done to us when we were young, and now we've discovered it's been systemic for centuries. Oops. Let's see. Was there any other? Micro and macro, as above, so below, as within, so without. Absolutely, Brian. But when we see a lesion occur on our skin, when we see a lesion, some kind of event occurring on the skin, and we do this thing of, okay, well, what I need to do is I need to put cream on it, and I need to put some red light therapy on it or something. I need to do something like that on the outside, rather than you can treat the without, but you see, the problem came from within, so it's going to occur again, and you're going to become a regular customer down at the pharmacy, because they'll need to top up your cream every 6 months or whatever. And eventually that lesion, or those lesion sites, will grow such that there's more than one, or they're covering half of the skin. And so that trauma that's within is the trauma that once assuaged, will reduce the without, will attend to the without. It may take time, but with that approach, I think you're far more likely to address the without. And if we look into the world now, I know obviously I'm talking about these true crime videos or people experience, or events that are extremely shocking. They are 1 in 10,000. They are the odds are pretty low on them, so this is not to castigate the entirety of humanity in that way. The majority of people are not that. But we've proven that the majority of people are held up or constrained by the without, the information that's out there, the universe that's all the way out there, and so this holds them at a point where they are always going to be at a loss, or it's not quite what I wanted to say. It's going to constrain. I feel like we come from, like I've said many times, the puppies in a cage analogy, where you've treated the puppies badly, you've starved them in their youth. So the adult puppy or the adult dog is hard to deal with, a difficult dog. And we live in a world of difficult dogs, and who have been mistreated generationally, not just like this is the last 30 years, it's gone, no, the trauma, I mean, we could be foundlings, but the trauma that 4, 5, 6 generations ago were being that were being inflicted on them. Certainly the Victorian type and the the strictures that my grandparents came up with and then passed on to my mother, who she diluted but passed on to me. These things are dyed in the wool, and we're not going to address them by simply putting big banners up around the world and saying, all the governments are a deception. And it's not going to. It's what difference does it make? What difference? Well, obviously, for us it's significant, but if all we do is look at that stuff on the outside and not the within, then we may have wasted a great opportunity to live out our best experience here, and perhaps in the afterlife, in the soul story, perhaps subjugate a journey that we're meant to be on. So so was there anyone else who had something else they wanted to say? Oh, thanks, Ryan. I appreciate that. Legendary chat, legendary message. Yeah, well, I want to try and give this message more. And, I want to revisit something that we did last year, which we called the Labyrinth, where I invited some guys. I'm not sure if the format will stay the same as last time, but I invited some guys to come along and have a kind of conversation, or put your heart, put it out there, have a chat, fellowship, I suppose, is a good way of putting it. A fellowship and a way of helping people to be able to unpack some of their stuff. So I would like to continue in that vein, So I'll work on that over the weeks ahead, and I'll let you know. And if you've just joined, I am doing a face-to-face presentation in a bookstore in Bruton in Somerset on the 24th of January, 7 p.m. If you can come. I have I think I put it in my community. I did put in my community tab, so have a look at that. Nice chatting with you all at Highfields. Hey, Mark. Nice to see you, Mark Swabrick. Been a while. Hope you're well, mate. We appear to be playing with ourselves. Yeah, well, yeah. There's a number of ways that you could read that. My hands are on the table, but I will say that, yeah, I mean, if that's in reference to what I was saying, yeah. I mean, I've said this a few times, and maybe not everyone's heard this, but I'll say it again. That on the DMT 2015, the message that nothing here matters, really came through so powerfully for me. Hard to make sense of it. Nothing here. What do you mean nothing matters? I can just go out and do whatever. A little bit like Aleister Crowley, do what thou wilt. Well, I mean, I think there's a price to be paid for breaking the golden rule. I think we're meant to love our neighbor and all that. I don't know what that price is, other than obviously, living with some kind of horror hell, in some kind of horror hell. But yeah, I mean, I think living with lies. I know living with lies is a hell, and I've put myself through that in the past. But I think that Yeah, I do not see what I experience on the DMT as a license to think I can go around and do whatever and treat people however I, in any kind of way. Oh, I can do this, I can do that. No, I don't think you can do whatever you want and get away with it in that way. Um, is God or the creator or source going to be meting out punishments and so on? I can't speak to that. Um, does a mass murderer, just have the same transition from this life to the next on death row? Yeah, I don't really know the answer to that. It may be as insane as if you go down to the fun fair and they've got coconut shy and you're going to shoot at coconuts and what have you. It may be as simple as that because this reality isn't what we think it is. This reality has been altered by the people who run it. That's why people think they live on a globe. But this reality is, it seems to me, a soul test. I'll end that there. Thanks, Brian. Please remember to airstrike the like button. Is that a reference to what the Brits are doing at the moment in the Middle East? I wonder. Thanks. That was I must be a little bit behind the chat. That was an epic crying globe. Thank you. Yeah, that was my big globe on the chalkboard in Sevenoaks. Mighty Adam says, "Ooh, you're so bad, Dave." Yeah. FE driver, like what you do and say. Oh, I appreciate that. I'm sorry, I'm slow at reading. I actually I can read, but it's just my eyesight is, and I won't. I do have a pair of 1.5 or 1 times magnification glasses for this kind of purpose, but I never use them. I am trying something at the moment actually, which may improve my eyesight. My eyesight did improve in my first year of doing distilled water, but I'm trying something now because in South Africa it wasn't on distilled water, and it did set my eyesight back, honestly, and I don't think that I've recovered that setback. But I'm trying something called methylene blue. And do your own research on it, but methylene blue is something that it's a dye that comes out of the printing industry or the textiles industry, and it was found to be useful initially in patients where they were wanting to do like those MRI type scans where you drink it or they get it into your system somehow, and the blue shows up in your veins, so they can very easily map things in your body using this technology. But some years ago, it was discovered that this methylene blue was phenomenal at addressing certain. I don't have all of my mind on this right now, but the methylene blue can basically helps your body to repair, and it does a number of things, or it's claimed to have done a number of things for. I think it's Kelly Brogan or Amanda Wallman, but I think it's Kelly Brogan who has brought this to our attention. And the methylene blue, you drink it, you take a tiny, minuscule amount. Like I'll give you an example. You take 1 gram of powder and you mix it into a liter of distilled water, and then you take, in my case, 3 or 4 mils of that water per day. So 3 thousandths of 1 gram, or 4 thousandths of 1 gram in a day. So it's a very tiny amount that you're taking. Kind of weird. Your tongue, when you've just taken it, your tongue turns blue, or is blue from the ink. Your pee comes out a bit blue sometimes. But But I was kind of motivated to do it because, wrong eye. It's this eyebrow, those who've been around a while would have seen a lot of my hair fell out last year, quite suddenly. All of a sudden, it was like my beard disappeared, and then maybe it was the year before, but my beard just fell out. And my hair, then it just slowly worked its way over months up my hairline like this, up to about here. It was all gone, like baby bald, like completely gone. I did do some MMS a few months ago, and that may be what kickstarted the hair to regrow, and it's mostly fairly well returned here. But the same effect started happening here and here on my forehead. So I thought I'd take the methylene blue, see if that works. And now, believe it or not, but wrong one. This eyebrow is actually growing hair. So over the course of this year, you'll hopefully see this one return to its Magnum PI best. And here's a wild one, in that there is an asymmetry. I know I'm talking a lot about myself right now, so I do apologize, but this is interesting. I think there's an asymmetry that can kind of happen in our bodies. Like one side will slip, and whether it's Kelly Brogan, whoever we were listening to, that Andrew was listening to, was like, I'm seeing this asymmetry, or this lack of symmetry. I'm seeing it alter so that my face is now perfectly even. Now we had to get a passport photo done a little while ago, and I sat in the booth there and had my photo done. I was like, shit, that's happened for me. My face is kind of other way. My face is kind of slipped down. And so I'm interested to see whether that doesn't address that symmetry, and also the eyesight, that it's meant to be improving the eyesight. Now I've only just in the last few days got to like that full strength of taking 3 or 4 mils per day. I was taking half a mil initially and 1 milliliter and so on. I was just building up. And I'm together with the methylene blue, we are using like an infrared light and a red light, which is said to help the methylene blue or whatever get right into the mitochondria of the cell. And if it gets into the mitochondria of the cell, this is where it can do its best work. So watch the space, and if you want more information, hit me up. Sir Sniper, I like that. Evening, Sir Sniper. I told my mom to, this is Mighty Adam, to observe everything in nature, from the seed to fully grown. The miracle of a child from seed to baby in 9 months. Telling him we were created by man. I wondered why I was thinking. It's partly why I lost my thread there. You know the story of evolution is one of us coming from like a slime to a tadpole to like a fish to whatever, and then crawling onto the land, becoming, being amphibious, and then coming onto the land. Well, actually, if you break down the phases of gestation from the Big Bang, the night mommy and daddy get together, that whole process is being described in the evolutionary cycle. In fact, we even have hair on our bodies. We're like little monkeys in the womb, but before that we're like a little fish thing with a tail and whatnot, and then we're just like a little bit of slime, in the form of the egg, and obviously this sperm, whatever process that plays, so I feel like they're having a big laugh with us, because it may be that evolution from that to that is the 9-month process, and that each of you are the full evolutionary cycle from from the natural point of view, obviously, once you come out or you're interfered with by the system, then that starts to mess with all of that, and you don't, But just food for thought is that it all might be that, and that it really, for me, that theory really lends credence to the idea that the universe is you, and you and I verse, because we are each our own universe, unique version of the creator, of the source. Food for thought, hey? But it's nice that, Mighty Adam, that you're telling your mother to observe nature. I mean, you don't get a lot of traction with that, but when you look at, because people don't want to, because we've looked at nature for years and said it was all Big Bang bollocks. Hey, Jason Stowe. I'm going to say this carefully. Oh, yeah. Singeman says, if the unjabbed were dropping like suddenly, as we're seeing in the world, it would be on every news channel 24/7. Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We told you so. But they don't want to be told that they got it wrong. But they're obviously beating some other drum. I do listen to Dr. John Campbell quite often, actually, truthfully. Even though the guy's, still fairly stuck on a lot of mainstream dogma. He did a chat with a guy last night, and who's done a lot of research in, maybe the night before, on vitamin D, and how there's a product that you can buy off the shelf, off the counter in Spain and a few other countries, that is the hormone that is created by the liver when you get sun. When you get vitamin D, or in fish or other forms of vitamin D, when you get vitamin D, preferably in a natural way, but when you get vitamin D, your body then has to turn it into something else. I forget the name of it, long name, science kind of name. And this product you can synthesize. You can actually make this hormone and give that to patients or people for their well-being. And he found that a study that was done in Spain, where they gave 50 people during the pandemic, they gave them this product, and one of those 50 people ended up in the A&E, in the emergency ward. Then they had another control group of 26 people who they didn't give it to, and 50% of those people ended up in the A&E, in the high care, intensive care. And it's an incredible thing that with vitamin D, and it's just a fascinating. I won't go over it now. I think it's worth going to look at just the evidence, and evidence has been peer reviewed and published by the British Medical Journal back in the 1970s, that there is this wonderful way of addressing seasonal flus and people's immune response and so on by doing these various things. But get out in the sun as much as you can. Although apparently the older we get, the less vitamin D we process from the sun. And interestingly enough, he also showed other evidence that supported this idea that people who have darker skins, they need much more sun, because their natural environment is a place that's more sunny, and therefore their bodies are prone to process by receiving 90% of sunlight. Whereas when you're here in North, in Europe, you're getting 60 or 50% or less of sunlight in terms of the strength by comparison to Central Africa or somewhere like that. And so those folks were more at risk in the UK of coming down with flu, because their normal amounts of vitamin D are not being sustained by lifestyle and the sun. that they get here. Food for thought. So let's see. Was there any other questions I wanted to? I won't keep this conversation going too long because, like I say, it's a bit odd for me to be just sitting here pontificating. No one to debate with or discuss with or argue with if I'm on the street. But I will try and do it more. My own radio silence has been, in part due to my own challenges. Life has not been this smooth sailing, as I said earlier. Not drinking much coffee. Yeah, that's water or fruit juice. And cut out sugar. Well, you probably know this, Brian. He's talking about how he's managing his stuff there with his. I see Brian Stabley's here. Hey, brother. Nice to see you, and thanks for stopping by. And I hope your recent home move has gone well. Yeah. But yeah, just Brian, I think if you want to cut out sugar, then unfortunately fruit juices are probably not a great idea. Fruit, when you eat it, from the skin, it takes a while for your body to break that the cells down and take the sugar out of that. Whereas, with a fruit juice, that's not as restricted, and it's like a rapid uptake of sugar. So if you are going to have fruit juices, maybe try and blend in some veggies with it as well, and try and have all the pulp that comes with it. Not that I'm able to give medical advice or but health advice. I used to be a fitness instructor in a much earlier incarnation of my life. I loved it. That was my life, for a few years in my early 20s. That was my life. And I always kept abreast of stuff like that. Not that I'm the paragon of fitness myself right now, but I've also been rowing my boat. Brian says alcohol gives depression. I avoid it now. Okay. Well, am I that far behind? Are we that from back then? Yeah, I almost never drink alcohol. I'm not saying I wouldn't drink alcohol at all, but I got a sneaking suspicion. Call me a conspiracy theorist, but alcohol is pushed so hard, and this country, England, is every village has got a pub or two at least, and every house that I visit and I sit, almost every house that I sit for has got enough alcohol in the house to kill you. I know Brian enjoys a drink, and I'm not one to say, oh, you shouldn't be drinking, but I just feel like the alcohol thing, there is a reason why it's pushed, and but I'm not going to be one of those who say, well, if you drink alcohol, like those who say, if you eat meat, you're never going to heaven, or whatever. Your soul can't ascend or whatever, because you'll be too heavy to leave and all that sort of stuff. I'm not sure about that. But yeah, I would say, the less alcohol, the better, really. But, everybody must live their own best life and work it out for themselves when it's right for them. Yeah, well, thanks, Brian, for stopping in. I don't know if you're still here, but I would... it's Francois. Hello, brother. Francois Lagrange, as they would say out here. Nice to see you, brother. Everyone who doesn't know that Francois was the the farmer who set me up with a car in South Africa and gave us my family a place to stay for a few months, and we had a bit of a lifesaver out there, and I'm looking forward to seeing him again someday in the flesh. And I'm looking forward to seeing your Blue Dot shop on the map. I think I would, some of you guys that are chatting in the chat room here, I would be happy to, in the future arrange such that you could, that you could drop in on the call, because I would like to have that kind of round table and get people together, bounce ideas around and stuff like that. How long have we been going for? Quite a while. Oh, 1 hour 40. Yeah, that's long enough, I think. If this and now that Francois has come, then I can say, tick that off and say it's been a good day's work. Like I said before, I am doing a presentation called The Core on next Wednesday. That's a week tomorrow. I think today's Tuesday. Next Wednesday, a bit south, a few hundred miles south of where I am now. I'm going to try and get it recorded, so I will, if I do, I will post it up, and you'll be able to listen in. Yeah. We feel like you're talking to this. We feel like you're talking to us in a room, Singeman. Thanks, man. But I think that not everyone wants to, you don't have to put your face. It can be just a thumbnail. And not everybody wants to be talking either. But those who do, can drop in, and that would be pretty cool. Like a bit of an evolution of what I do and what is my purpose. Because I don't know about you guys, but for me, what is my purpose here? And what do I do with this knowledge? How do we make the world a better place, and from within? So it's like the stepping stone maturation process of taking ourselves from where we were, these beat up globers, to thriving as sovereign, representatives of our souls, of the higher self. So, okay, so there's a little combo there. Okay, Brian was just confirming that it's the MRI with the blue dye. Yeah, methylene blue, or M blue. Please do your research. There are doctors you can find on YouTube who talk about treating their patients with M blue. Canadian, American. So it's not like Backstreet. He has a crazy idea off the the shelf kind of the Backstreet. There are there are doctors using this as a treatment, and it can treat some pretty extreme conditions. So I'm getting confused in my mind a little bit about a lot of people are doing hydrogenated water, and why I'm getting confused is because when the hydrogenated water actually donates a hydrogen, obviously I'm using the periodic table and the language of materialism, but you understand, just so I understand what I'm talking about. The hydrogenated water has like a spare hydrogen, and it can go into your cells and donate a hydrogen to free radicals, which are missing a hydrogen and going a little bit haywire. And once they've had this hydrogen top up, it's all good. Things can improve. So the hydrogenated water is an interesting thing. I was looking at recently, and so I was starting to get a little bit confused. But the M Blue is said to have the most incredible benefits. Now, I've only been doing it for a little while, so it's a little too soon to make any claims about personal benefits. But I would definitely recommend, you put it into your research list of things to look at. This is to do with self-care, I mean, none of us really wants to have to go to the doctor. In the case of Brian, there's times when it's like, you got no choice, buddy. If you don't do this, you may not see tomorrow. So that's all good, fair enough. And I always keep that door open for myself, that possibility. If I couldn't sort something out myself, then I would need to step into that realm. But if I can do things to mitigate things in this way, then I'm going to give them a bash. The MMS, I think, is phenomenal. Although I was advised not to do MMS with coffee because of the acidic kind of combination. So because I am a bit of a coffee drinker, I haven't been doing much MMS of late since I discovered that. So it's a bit of a shot myself in the foot there. I hope your mum's well, Brian. I mean, Beer Brian Evans, not Brian Staveley. I see you there, yeah. So I hope my back starts working because it's pulled a muscle. Yeah. Interesting, hey? Like the reason we pull muscles is, typically given as, you jerked something up, you were cold, it was the wrong position, and so on. And that's what I feel. But sometimes it's possibly related to one of these energetic kind of whirlpools that you've got, and sometimes people will get a repeating. Like, I've had a shoulder injury for quite a while, and you remember, like last year, I couldn't even get it up to the steering wheel. It was like so much pain just to kind of hold on to the steering wheel. I had to lift my elbow up like this, and then prop it onto the windows, and then hold on to the steering wheel. Oh my gosh, it's a lot better now, but it's still like a recurring thing, and it's possibly trapped. It could be trapped trauma, trapped energy. So, sometimes if we can address some of these things, how many of us do much meditation and stretching and, quiet time and so on with yourself, which is being with God. In fact, Francois, who's in the chat, his first or second language is Afrikaans. And in Afrikaans, the word for God is H-E-R-E, which in English is here. In Afrikaans, we say Here, but that means God. So is that a clue? God is here. Right there in your chest or up here, whatever, but God is here, and we need to take care of that. We need to honor that and love that. Coffee cancels out the process. Yeah, I may end up walking away from coffee, or maybe just cutting down to one a day. I only have 3 a day, maybe possibly 4 some days, but generally about 3 a day. So I think for what that's worth, that one or 2 isn't a problem, but I would accept that drinking only water would be preferable. But we can't be like Puritans either. So I once sat with a gentleman maybe 15 years ago outside a coffee shop, and he was telling me he was in a bad way, and he's like, "Oh, I really want to have a cigarette. My doctors told me that I can't have no more cigarettes, and blah blah blah." I mean, the guy was at the end of his life. He was probably into his 70s. He looked older. He might have had like a pushchair kind of thing to move around. Broken. I said to him, "Well, you know what? You've got a little bit of time left. You might as well enjoy it, rather than now put yourself through like agony of I've smoked for 70 years kind of thing, and now for the last few months of my life, for the past few years, last year or two of my life, I need to stay off the smoke." I don't know, man. Maybe you just need to kind of enjoy yourself, because look where you're at right now. And the same is true with alcohol, I suppose. Is you are here also to have some fun. But if you're doing these things in excess, then that's probably going to shorten the fun. This is Francois. Check out Vader Austin's work. Is that Vader Austin? Work on water. Okay, I don't know who that is, but I know Alpha Vedic. I know Austin Whitsitt. Well, I don't know him, but I know of him. He's a pretty bright guy. Hi, DN. Nice to see you. One of the first people I researched years and years ago was Victor Schellberger, years and years ago, and outside of the sort of mainstream thinking, and I found what he said about water to be very informative, very useful. I think water is a living thing. It can get stale, and water carries information. India Holistic Media, she puts by her water carafe, hope you don't mind me saying that, she puts like messages of positive affirmation or love or symbols that imbue the water with good energy. I've seen people do stuff like that. We all know Dr. Emoto's work on angry water versus loved water. So love what you're putting in your body. If you say this stuff is bad for me, and I think that's why they put those ugly pictures on the cigarette packets nowadays, because they want to ideate into the creator's mind that this is poison, this is bad, this is bad. Because if I can say that, you can say that to a child every day, you're bad, you're bad, you're bad. And they'll believe that. And they will actually probably live their life as a bad person. So I think that we need to be mindful of how we castigate ourselves for the things that we do. But yeah, if you're overeating, over-sugaring, overdoing this, overdoing that, it's probably pointing to a reason why you're feeling the need to comfort yourself in that way. So I would strongly suggest considering, looking at the childhood trauma. And my wife obviously is available as a coach for childhood trauma, unpicking childhood trauma as a way of maturing through this process. So she does that, and I'm sure she'd be happy to have a new client or two. I could even get you some kind of mates rate discount. Come via me. Oh, hey, I see the Trinities is here. Oh, I see that Andrea is actually in the chat. Feeling the big cosmic energies. she talks about a lot about that as well, and connecting what's energetically happening to what's being done in the media, how people are feeling individually, etc. That's true. Festivus says coffee is like alcohol. There's a coffee shop in every corner. That's absolutely true. And that's got to be a bit of a warning sign, right? Of course, I have to roast it. I think the roasting process might not be all that good for us, but that's absolutely true. And that wasn't true 20 years ago. There was if you're in England, there was like a greasy spoon calf that did, that glass jug of pot of coffee. That's very horrible. That was the predominant coffee shop, thing. And most people drink tea at these calves, Buddhist calves, greasy spoon, as they call them. Coffee has become really, really pushed. And they've used, like TV shows like The Friends, as ways of pushing that agenda, Of course, if you're in the coffee business, you would probably want to encourage people to do that, whether or not it was harmful. But I accept that point, and I get a little bit of a buzz from coffee. That's kind of partly why I do it. It gives you that morning rush of wake up or whatever, and then if I have too many, if I'm 3, 4, 5 coffees now in and they're strong, then my body is starting to sweat that out. It's like, I smell like the onion farmer now because I'm too much coffee in, and my body's starting to have this kind of, toxic stress almost. And what's the word I'm looking for? We are creating, you're creating like a nervous system reaction to that, and that adrenal surge, if you like, all day long, is storing up problems is creating potential problems for later down the line. That seems to me to be fairly, obvious. So the adrenals do not need to be stimulated all the time. And those who do drink coffee are recommended to do it after a meal so that the adrenals are not hit quite so hard. Me, I've had 2 coffees before I've had any food in the morning. So I'm a long way from perfect on that. The Trinity says, the astrology is pretty big right now. Will cause all sorts to be coming, all sorts to be coming up. The most physical symptoms are messages that I believe have an emotional root. And in that vein, we think that the reason that there was an uptick in 2020 of people's getting sick, flu and whatnot, such that other than mistreatment by the misinformed medicals, was that that there was an energy shift in the world. And just like if a frequency changes in your space, you'll be like, oh, that hurts my ears. The same is possibly what happened in 2020, and that may well be continuing upwards. I don't take my foot off the throat of Pfizer and all of those Modernas and all of them. I think for sure that what they did with the inoculation program was to speed a lot of people off this mortal coil. But I think I do allow for this idea that actually we live in an energetic realm, and then if the energies change in the realm, so those who are less well prepared for that change physically are affected, and we get sick. It may be why we do get so-called pandemics. Just there is a shift, and of course a lot of us put it down to 5G and all sorts of other things, but it could also be as simple as an energetic shift in the world. Okay. Thank you. It's easier to move around than sitting, laying flat. Okay, that's a conversation, I guess. I have to stretch all the time. Nice one, Brian. I haven't been doing enough. I used to be pretty diligent with my stretching and so on, but yeah, I won't harp on. The shift will be big personally and collectively. If we thought the last 2 years, 3 years were wild, the next 20 years are going to be wilder. That's according to Andrea, the Trinities. So strap on and, be fit for it. Yeah. Okay. And the blood thinning thing, that must be another conversation. Thanks, Hippie Shake, for sharing the Trinity's channel. That is Andrea's channel and my backup channel, or my backup channel and Andrea's channel. I only use it occasionally, and yeah, we'll see. Yes, the trauma of school, definitely the the robber baron educational system needs to go. It does. I think though it does, and what they're teaching children obviously is detrimental, but not all of it. But there are some key elements of it that are intentionally misleading. However, what our system is not geared up for, and what we are as a society is not geared up for, is to rear our own children and educate them ourselves. And I feel that with our decision to home educate, or it's easy, and because it's so easy to drop your child off at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the morning and pick them up 8 hours, 7 hours later. And you don't have to think about too much about what they're learning. It's being taken care of and so on. Now you've got to think about all of those things. You've got to have the time to, although you don't have to, you do not need to give your child 7 hours of schooling every day. I think just a few hours is probably enough. But you have to have someone there all day to steward your child. So in a village setting, you would still have, 3, a dozen, half a dozen people of interest who are interested in the education of subjects, music, language, arts, whatever. You would have still be able to. It would be great to be able to send your children to a place where, not a school, but like to a teacher, into the forest, or or forest school or whatever, because it is a lot of work for just two people, and we tend to be, our society is broken such that there isn't a village anymore around you to support the rearing. Even in the African villages, where in South Africa when I was young, it was far more commonplace for young African children to get a lot of their education in their village rather than from a state school. And that's changed now, such that, of course, they want for their children to be the doctor and to be the whatever. And so in order to do that, you have to send them through the system in a way. I believe that I don't, because people have put it to me. So what if he wants to be an engineer or whatever? Well, he will have learned the maths, he will have learned the various subjects of interest, such that if there's an entry examination for him to write to get to that course, if that's needed, then he'll be skilled enough to do that. Or we'd spend some time preparing for him to be able to do that. So yeah, I'm with you, man. I mean, I think it's horrible. We drive past schools now and we look at them, the fences around them are getting bigger and bigger, and access to them is, limited, and even children are having to wear like a lanyard with a little tag and check in. Some of them are even on the barcode where you can only get in with the barcode and blah, blah, blah. So your movements are tracked. You're in a sort of day prison. And then there's all the squashing and, conforming and all of those sorts of things. Most people will say the best part of school is the time they have with their friends. And I tend to agree with that. I think that's the biggest part of our, sort of requirements is to provide a way that Zizi can have the social element of growing up. It's important, but not all of the hours and all of the added dogma. I mean, you wouldn't believe what this little guy is interested in already. He's wanting to learn coding. We've recently got a program called Scratch, and he was teaching me stuff last night that I had never learned. Not about coding, but about metals or something, or some boiling point. He was talking about the tungsten's boiling point this morning. Tungsten's boiling point. He's writing down. He can recite off the first few 6 digits of pi. He's putting math formulas down, writing math formulas. I'm like, wow. This little guy. He may not know all his timetables yet, but he's got a thirst, and I think we all do. We have a thirst for knowledge, and we live in the time of Aquarius, of the information, and with the internet, you have access to a wealth of really good teachers who can take a subject and break it down and make it interesting for a young mind. So he does spend some time on things that are just kind of like, this is childish stuff, but he also spends quite a lot of time on self-learning. So I think we have such great power within us, but we need that power to be enabled, not disabled. And I think the robber barons, as you said, the education system is designed to disable, make us needy victims, and and give us a sort of egoic sense of what achievement looks like. So, but I'm glad my wife has found time to get into the chat, so I appreciate that, honey. Everything in moderation, why not? The difference is eustress or distress. The distress will not benefit you. Interesting. I'll have to think about that. Caitlin. You're referencing Plato's cave. We cannot stare at the shadows on the wall. We must look at the shadows within. This, I believe, is where true freedom is found. That from the Trinities. Yeah. Yep. I think, well, we're kind of on the same page. I see Dean HD has popped in. Nice to see you, mate. Yeah, nice to see you. I hope it's gone well with your lovely daughter this evening. I think it's I'm sitting in this office, which is, you wouldn't believe it, is very cold, very, very cold. There's no heating in here, so it's not as cold as those sessions I did all those years ago with Russian vids. 8 hours in a freezing cold bus on Dan Kruger's land in Portugal. In New Hampshire guy, hey, nice to see you, man. Thanks for stopping by. We're getting towards the end of my session here. I'm kind of running out of body heat and steam, and I mean, I like this, and it's nice having it to and fro, and I'll do it again soon. And but yeah, I'm not as accustomed to pontification in this forum as perhaps I should be. So maybe it'll be easier next time around. and you can come with questions. Oh, okay. Well, is there any other? Excuse me. If you're late to the stream, sorry I didn't have Alec Zeck as advertised. He had to drop out at the last minute. Hopefully he'll be able to come back another time. We'll see. But you are sovereign in the electromagnetic universe. Love, truth, and personal sovereignty are possible. God is within you. Mankind is at the crossroads. Will you follow the flock in servitude or become master of your own freedom? Trinity 4. So, okay, is there anything else there? Oh, eustress. Okay, you were going to explain that. Eustress or distress was in reference to the sympathetic nervous system. Okay. So that's interesting. Sympathetic activation is not a bad thing. It does depend a lot on your state of being. You know, it's an interesting thing. We are so unique, each of us, but there are some key things like, you know, people fit into predominantly like two characters. You know, we all know this symbol in the truth seeking community. This one here, the yin and the yang. You know, and the yin and the yang. Well, it's a little bit like the masculine and the feminine. You know, we all have a bit of both, but obviously masculine is predominantly the masculine for most guys. And so our body types or our makeup are either predominantly yin or predominantly yang. I mean, there may be some who are kind of like a bit sort of 50-50 yin yang, and Andrea thinks that I might be a bit 50-50 on the yin yang thing, but I'm obviously no question about the masculine thing. But you know, so it's horses for courses, I think is the phrase that comes to mind. You know, we some people can handle things that other people cannot, and it's really just down to the makeup and so the nervous system. It's one of those things that probably, I'm talking a little bit out of my wheelhouse here, but it's probably one of those things that can be trained, and therefore, I mean, I can think of examples of that. Go back to the puppy, frighten the puppy, you know, make these startling noises and so on, that their nervous system all the way down the line, and like guys who've got PTSD, they hear a crack of what sounds like a gun or whatever, and their nervous system immediately goes into fight or flight, where someone else may not. And why? Because the experience that they've had up until that point has shaped their has affected their nervous system. And so I think if this is referencing coffee, also, then, you know, like hitting your nervous system all the time, your nervous system can handle it. It's like if I go drinking with my pals who drink often, you know, their body, they wake up the next morning, it's like, I've had a fraction of what you had to drink, and you're fine this morning. I feel like I've got a hangover. Okay, I could have, if I had this much wine, tomorrow I would have a hangover. Other people would be laughing at me like, that's a warm-up. What are you talking about? It's, you know, the body is like that. Okay. Well, Callum or Caitlin, sorry, my eyesight is really letting me down a little bit. You're getting a lot of positive affirmation there on that. Two of my female cousins suffering pneumonia. Sorry to hear that. I do hear about you must do as well, like the died suddenly thing. It comes up down the line. You hear, oh, someone knows someone who just 50-year-old dies suddenly. My sense is that kind of news is going to become more normal in our world, and you know, but because this life is just a pit stop on your soul's experience, eternal, whatever. I don't want anyone to die unnecessarily, but I'm not also as broke up as I would have been, years ago before I knew this about that. You know, you went on the ride, and you came off early because you didn't do the thing that you were meant to do on the ride at the right time, and so that's. But I just think that what's relevant, I suppose, more pertinent is to say that if this is what is happening and it is happening, but if it's going to, the trajectory is to increase, not just die off, and then in 5 years' time everyone's forgotten about the whole thing. If it's going to increase, then our world is going to get more chaotic, as Andrea was saying, and I think okay, let me put it like this. If 3 members of your family who took the treatment back in 2021 was to die suddenly, how much is that going to ruin your life? How strong are you for such a thing? Because this is what I think we need to steel ourselves for, is the possibility of that. And that's like a worst case scenario. So I really don't even want to kind of spend too much time on this. But if that's going to happen, then are you strong enough to deal with that? And that's really why I think we need to be doing this inner work, like coming to peace, and so that you glide through this reality, this existence, this experience, less encumbered by that. Yeah, that's what I think. So it's work. It always comes back to you. Always. What is the Trinity saying? Frozen moments get left in nervous system and need to be completed and brought to wholeness, most especially the unconscious moments that are blind spots that we see the world and ourselves through. This thing of blind spots, well, I should get Andrew to come and talk on this another time, because really, even when you're talking about blind spots, you may not see your own blind spots. Blind spots are blind spots. That's why they're blind spots, right? You don't know that they're there, and that's why sometimes you need somebody else to be honest enough with you to say that's a blind spot, and you need to be honest enough with yourself, or willing to recognize the blind spot. Yes. So, I'm going to I'll say Trinity's memory. Yeah, it's amazing I think that is stored in us. We are like these storage banks for all the things that have happened. All the little events that happened to that puppy when they were small are there to hurt you. Oh, someone bought me a coffee. Norfolk seems quite flat, so here's a flat white on me, Andy. Thanks, Andy. That's very kind of you, mate. I appreciate it. Yeah, I appreciate that very much. I very much appreciate that. Thank you very much. Yeah, I asked Martinica to pop on in, but you know what? I am freezing now, cold, and it's been a long time for me to talk by myself. So it would be nice to have Martin come, but we'll do it another time. I know that in just half an hour he's due to go live with Jason on our KX channel. So Martin, thanks for offering to come by, but I think I'll leave it for now. I'm glad I've had this chat because well, it's about me also getting out in the trenches, or getting out there. We're all old souls who've been coming to connected before. Yeah, I really like that idea. I really like that idea. I can't obviously I can't prove it, but I do like that idea. There's lots of things we can't prove, I suppose. Oh, here's something from Thomas. Oh, Thomas Rowland, nice to see you, man. Been a while. The most important practice in my life has been sexual transmutation. For 11 years now, my energies have been rising daily, and this has only brought growth on all levels. This is, if I have it right, this is the retention of semen prior to ejaculation, and so that that energy is retained within, and then enables it helps the CSF, the cerebral spinal fluid, to kind of. I know I've heard Santos talk about this, and the guy that we went out to South Africa with in 2021, I think he was practicing that as well. That's a tough one for me. I'll be honest with you. Not that I am absolutely of the view that we should not be like just a fountain of, semen. I had a bit of a porn thing years ago, and I was wasting a lot of energy on that. I admit that. So I'm mindful of that, and I'm not wasteful of of that. But I obviously haven't got the. I haven't got the. What is it? I have to. I suppose I have to try it. I just feel like one of the things I feel about it is like, in a world in which they're trying for us not to have children. It is one of those things that I think, is it possible that they're trying to stop people from ejaculating so that we don't have children, like the condom thing? However, I caveat that by saying, yes, I'm pretty certain that your semen carries some CSF, and so you're actually draining the lamp by over squirting. And I have even said that to my oldest son. I've sort of said, hey, just so you're aware, because I know when you're sort of young and in your 20s, you're, fountainous. But then I wonder, I have wondered about the feminine equivalent of that, because the female ejaculation, as far as I'm aware, maybe I'm mistaken, but as far as I'm aware, is not in the same way connected to the CSF in the way that the semen is. So what's the lady part of, what's the ladies element of that? Maybe you have an answer on that. I'm not mocking it at all. It may be, and your testimony is a value. However, in fact, here's this interesting little tidbit. My grandparents, who were pretty, what's the word? They were like, I wouldn't say Puritan, but they weren't a long way from Puritan, as were the founding fathers of America, etc. And in fact, Norfolk is a home where Andy, he just sent me that kind coffee. The Abraham Lincoln's family, the George Bush family, they all come from a Puritan kind of backdrop in Norfolk. We discovered this when we were at the Letton Hall phase in 2020. My grandparents believed that there was a little bit of a joke in the family. That their story was that procreation or sex was really only for procreation. Now, that may not be the same as semen retention, because I know that in semen retention, this is not about not engaging with the opposite or your partner. It is in their case. I think it was more like we only do it because we're wanting to have a child. So, but I mean, I certainly get that idea of energy sort of sapping. I mean, how many guys? How many we finish up, and then we go to sleep, kind of thing, because we're kind of exhausted from that moment. More than necessarily the humping and pumping, from the offloading. So yeah, I wouldn't kick that one out. But I don't have the willpower to at this point in time to or haven't got the skills to draw it in rather than allow it to flow in a way that I believe was natural. But it's interesting, and I definitely would talk about it more, even though I'm not necessarily a participant in that practice. So yeah, Sarah's colleague, 2 blood clots, losing eyesight and hearing. Thank goodness she had the. Wow, she had 7 carats. Wow. I wonder how old she was, Dean. I guess similar sort of age, 50, 60, 40, something like that. After experience, this is Thomas Rowland again. After experiencing the upward, I still occasionally lost some outwardly, but the upward movement is satisfying. For 7 years now, I have given up the lower completely. Wow. It's really that good. I mean, this is now a whole another conversation, and of course I'm going over time now, but over the time that I said. That's I mean, there's a few people have really tried to encourage me along that route, do you feel like do you feel? I mean, well, I mean, I guess it's hard to know how you would feel now after 7 years, had you not had that practice. It's hard to evaluate where that was. But I'm not kicking it out of bed, as it were. I'm definitely willing to listen to people's experience with that. So, 7 needles. Wow. Jason Hand says, when I try retention, I get tense and very lustful. Haven't figured out how to control my eyes and mind. Yeah, that's interesting as well. No, but I mean, I don't think that this is about not being with women. It's about how you proceed through the final phases of copulation. That's what this is. I think and women are beautiful for a reason, and they're physically attractive for a reason, and so we are meant to, I mean, obviously there's ways of us being with women that are respectful or not as respectful as it could be. You know, we're only being driven by that kind of lower nature of needing to get laid, and I could write a book about that. You know, so and that I think, you know, and that's part of our own journey of growth, isn't it? Really, to be to move through that, because it's kind of wired into our system and our society. So yeah, you know, I mean, if you know, we should be with women if that's what we desire, but obviously in the right and healthy setting, I suppose, is the best advice I can give on that. Every sperm is great. I have theories about what sperm is. You know, I know obviously we see these little kind of tadpoley things in the microscope, but I feel like it's carrying a charge. It's like this electrical spark that is delivered to the magnet in the lady in the womb. So it's electricity and magnet coming together, bang, and that bang is the energy required to start evolution. I was talking about evolution earlier, if you missed that bit, and how it's connected to, I think, to the gestation. So Thomas is saying women automatically lose that energy once a month, which gives them an advantage over men who spill the energy more than once a month, but a disadvantage over a man who spills less than once a month. Interesting. Something I did learn about the or something that I have been conscious of for a while when it comes to that, is that when the moon, for 2.5 days, the moon is in your birth sign every month, and when the moon is in your birth sign, that's the time for you not to drop any seeds. I'll leave it like that, short, sweet. So if I was to say that I was doing any kind of practice, I have been mindful this last year of where's the moon. I think I remember one time going, oh, I wasn't meant to do that tonight because the moon is in Pisces. But you know, yeah. And I mean, the body is an incredible device, you know, and I feel like there has to be like a cleansing of the pipes every now and again. So the idea that maybe once a month that you could, you know, cleanse the pipes and so on, and that would be good, kind of, you know, makes sense to me, you know. But you know, it would be harsh if you could only have one, you know, encounter that was kind of that. But you know, again, you know, maybe we you know, we're hedonists and we don't even know it, you know, because of the way our society has been set up, and we're far more fixated on sex than perhaps we should be. But yeah, you know, everyone can make their own choices on that, and but I would say, yeah, you know, obviously overdoing it in that department is going to exhaust you for sure. I guess you only need to look at porn stars and see how they age as a rough guide for that. Yeah, urine therapy has been great. Well, I have actually tried that, and I think that there's a lot to be said for that. I first heard about it about 7 years ago, and I gave it a whirl, and I found it, yeah, had certain benefits. I think that you can age it, you can do all sorts of things with it that can be beneficial. I burnt myself quite badly, and I applied it to the burn, and Wherever I applied it on the burn, there was no blistering. Where I hadn't bothered to apply it on my foot, there was blistering. When I was on Francois' farm, he was in the chat earlier, but when I was on Francois' farm a couple of years ago, I was doing some pruning up in a tree, and I fell out of the tree, and I grabbed hold of the branch, and it was very rough bark, and it ripped me here and here. And of course, I treated that with the urine, and the guys were impressed with how quickly it healed, actually. And if you don't already know this, your mother's amniotic fluid is some 75% from her urine. So you grow essentially in urine. Your skin, your internal pipework is formed out of urine. Check it out. So Thomas has got some advice. Focus your attention on the feeling in the body at those times, and this stops the thoughts which stir up the energy, and the energy immediately subsides. Hey man, we're all getting better and better and growing here. That's all good. Yeah. Urine, by the way, is like mostly water, but there is a small percentage, I forget now the percentage, is like 0.5% or 5%, something like that. It's smaller than 5%. But a small percentage of the urine is actually blood plasma ultrafiltrate. And it's this plasma that is actually credited with like being an anti-aging and healing property, and that your body is constantly looking at itself and analyzing itself, doing sort of backup checks and so on. And during the course of the night, the body is sort of writing the code for your repair, but that is being wasted when you pee it away in the morning. So look into that. Yeah, stem cells. Yeah, stem cells is you get that from that. In fact, I remember, they're using that stem cell in cancer treatment nowadays, actually, and you can create your own stem cells, or you're creating your own stem cells, but are you wasting them? On that bombshell, when they unload, gentlemen need to, I like this from a holistic, gentlemen need to be mindful that when they unload, they lose an enormous amount of zinc. Yes, important to replenish. Yeah, that's I guess why it's credited with having a metallic kind of taste. But that's true. I think you're right. India, we need to treat ourselves. This is the temple of God. This is the temple of God. And we need to, without being puritanical about it, we do need to seek ways of, if we want to, anyway, of managing our system in a balanced way. And then generally, by the time we go to the doctor with the wound, or it was the shoulder I was doing it with the skin lesions and whatnot, then that means that something else further down the pipeline has gone awry and is missing, just like you say, a little bit of zinc or the vitamin D or a little bit of this or a little bit of that, and your health is in a bad way. And then the docs are putting you on this tab and that thing and this needle, and soon before you know it, you're surviving on their pills. When we could just simply have eaten a particular fruit or a vegetable or some meat or something. So I would say that. But But yeah, I think I'm kind of happy to wrap this up now and say I'm so grateful for you stopping by. I'm grateful for the likes, if you've given us the like and the thumbs up or whatever. Um, I hope to have that guy Alec Zeck on at some point, and I hope to do a few other things, and maybe, as I said, to have like a little bit of a round table here in this forum for people to drop in informally and have a chit chat if they've got things they want to discuss, and move forward. I come from, in the truther community, I come from only 2014 really seeing that the the September New York things coming down, Building 7, all that. That was 2014, 2015, and flat Earth, and then like hammer, flat Earth. I think I need to mature my own journey forward, and I'm sure there's others around who want the same. Whilst I'll never lose sight of of the the magical, wondrous kind of realm that we live in. The best version of me is not one who is ranting and angry. The best version of me is one who is in a state of peacefulness, mindfulness, and and a kind of loving for the world, because we are so angry, some of us, me, the world, and in flat Earth and in truth, we're so angry with the world and the deceptions and so on that we actually hate on our brother and sister. And these are people. These are other than the conversation about NPCs and so on. These are the expressions of God. Misaligned, misinformed, etc. But these are the expressions of God. And if we cannot love, in this world, and we're still so angry out there, then that's something we must be carrying with us. So it's like, I mean, I'm not about to sit down with someone who's harming children kind of thing, and want to break bread with them. No, that's not the same thing. There is a boundary with that kind of stuff. But if all I'm doing is going angry, then I'm carrying that anger in me, and I will have held myself back. And so I hope that I can release myself from that anger and find a more loving, balanced way of viewing the world, even though it's messed up. And so, as part of my offering support, mentoring, teaching, whatever, I want to try and edify that in the forums and the way that I can, which includes right here with friends like yourselves. So as I say, I'll be in Somerset. If anyone's in Somerset, it'd be awesome to see you down in Bruton. There's not a lot of spaces in this bookstore, about 25, and I believe there's about 20 people have committed already. But let me know. Trinityforman@gmail.com, and it'd be awesome to see you. But otherwise, I will look to do this, because I've actually really enjoyed this. It has been a while since I did this, and I have enjoyed it, and I really appreciate you coming. And I'll look to do this like within a week and a half, should I say, because up until, well, at the end of this week we leave this house, and then we will have like a week of bouncing around from place to place, and then after that we're going to be settled for a month or more, and so like by the 26th I'll try and maybe do it a similar time, in 2 weeks' time. Okay? And we can maybe do it again. Thank you, Brian. And I feel you, bro. Thanks, Jason. Okay, well, yeah, be well, Glyph, and I really hope things work out with you and Marley and Lucia, or that the lessons that you're here to learn in that situation are learned. Yeah, one love, and stay well. Till next time.